let us try again. So if you're watching this, I've just deleted the other video. Hello, we were on our side. My phone had clicked off of auto rotate, so it was videoing me sort of almost laying on my side, which is never a good thing. Let's have a look and see if we are better now. I hope so. So let's start at the beginning. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. My name is Helen Jennings. I'm a Stumping Up demonstrator here in the UK, and hopefully we're now coming to you the right way round. My laptop is now having to catch us up, objecting to being messed about. That's looking as if that might be a bit better. So, good afternoon. That's better, with the right way round. So welcome. As I was saying, there looks like a little bit of blue sky out there. It stopped raining, which is a good job, because I'm out in the conservatory, so when it does rain I get quite a heavy pitter patter on the roof. We'd have been battling with that. But yeah, so there's a little bit of blue sky out there, but a bit more cloud. But as I say, we've had some gorgeous weather this week. We've been in the sunshine. Certainly my granddaughter and I were out in the park this week. One lunchtime, just with no coat, just absolutely beautiful. Cold in the mornings, cold at night, but beautiful midday. I'm sure that can't possibly last. So yeah, don't quite put your thermals away just yet. It's probably a bit early. But it's nice and warm in here, regardless of what the weather is doing outside. I've got some crafting and things to do with you. I'm going to get a little bit messy today. And enjoy playing with that hostess set, which was our product of the week, the Just Because set, and I will show you that again in a minute. Quick news from the coalface, as it was. We're in the last day of February, 1st of March tomorrow. So we will see if there's more exciting things to come during March. Who knows? But for now, celebration continues. It continues all through March. So we've got another month that you're going to be able to get free product with your orders. You're going to be able to get extra benefits if you host an event, and you're going to be able to get extra goodies if you invest in your starter kit. So all of those things are still available until the end of March. So don't miss out. Don't get to the 1st of April and go, oh, I wish I'd put an order in. So make sure over the course of this next month that you put in any orders and things you want to do to get the benefit of that celebration goodies. A couple of things I've noted down here to share with you. One is that the bingo is just a week away now. That's next week. If you would like to come and play 3 games of bingo with us and make 3 different crafty projects, simple projects, have the chance of winning some Stamping Up bingo prizes. There'll be chocolate, there'll be nice goodies to nibble on whilst we play and whilst we craft. A lovely evening planned. If you would like to come and join us for that next Thursday evening, 7:30 at Great Doddington Memorial Hall, then do come along, do give me a message. Let's get your tickets booked, and it would be lovely to see you at that. A couple of things that I've thought of as a result of customer questions over the last couple of days. One I'll share with you in a minute. The other is online orders. Somebody asked me, what is the quickest way to get an order to them? Well, actually the quickest way is sort of knocking out the middle step. So don't come to me for me to place your order, to wait for it to come to me, to wait for me to get it to you. The quickest way is for you to follow the link, and I shall make sure the link is in the edit to the video above, or you can find it on my website, or you can find links on the shop on here, on Facebook. Go straight to my online store and place the order yourself and have it delivered to you. That is by far the quickest way. Our warehouse for Stamping Up is actually based in Germany. But having said that, they do ask that you give 2 weeks for orders to arrive, but it is a very, very rare occasion when it takes anything like that long. So I placed an order over the weekend, last weekend, and it arrived yesterday, and that tends to be fairly standard. If they're particularly busy, if it's a catalogue launch or a particularly big promotion or something going on, then the warehouse might be a little bit slower getting it out. But generally they are really prompt, and it's a really good service. So bearing in mind that it is coming from Germany, it really doesn't take very long at all. But if you want it sooner rather than later, then by far your best option is to follow the link to my online shop and place the order and have it directly delivered to you, and a very nice UPS man or lady will bring you your order. So that's by far the quickest thing. I'm going to show you a few other things that have come up in conversations over the last few days that I thought I would share with you, because if other people are asking me, then you might want to know as well. So I'll do that when we turn round. But the other thing, it is the last day of February, so it is the last day today that you can book an event, a private event of some sort, whether it be a class or a party or whatever, and have benefit of that extra goodie bag that I'm giving away on top of everything else. So if you do want to book an event, get that in today before that particular offer finishes at the end of today. So let's get you turned down and turned round. Let's share with you the things I've got on the pile of lovely tools and things I've got on the desk in front of me, and then we'll think about doing some crafting. I'm just going to move that out of the way, because otherwise you'll be getting sneaky peeks before you're ready. So let's turn you down and turn you round. Hi Mags, glad you're back. And Valerie, hello Valerie. Yes, my original video, I have deleted it. So I started one video and we were sideways, but that was because somehow I'd managed to turn the auto rotate off on my phone. Having said that, my granddaughter was fiddling with my phone earlier in the week. In fact, Valerie will attest to that, because she had a missed call from her, and so it may have been that when she was fiddling around she may have knocked off the auto rotate. Okay, so what have I got in front of me? I have a pile of goodies here, things that, as I say, questions that have come up over the last week that if other people are asking, you might ask as well. Now, one of them was about what cleaning tools we have. So in front of me I have our cleaning tools. Now we have two that you can get your hands on and that you can use, and that will save you in the long term in terms of baby wipes, and will also do the environment some good in terms of baby wipes. The first is the Stamp and Scrub. I've got a few of these. I've got two in my bag that goes out to classes, and I've got one that sits by my desk. So they come very neat, and as you can see, mine's starting to get little fray bits. I might have to get my scissors out and trim that. So they come very neat, all sort of in this hard plastic case, and when you open up inside you get these two mats, and I'm going to turn this round. And they do pick up bits of fluff and things, because they are sort of almost like a felty, like they've got quite a deep pile on them, and if we can, you probably won't be able to pick up, but in this corner here on one side you have like little raindrops, and on the other side, do need to take my scissors and trim these up, on the other side you have like a sunshine, and that's because this side is the side that you wet and this side is the side that you leave dry. And the other thing that you get to go with your stamping scrub is a bottle of stamping mist. Now this is the small bottle with the spray on it, so this is the one to start with, but then you can get, and I'm just looking to see if I can see mine, you can then buy a bigger bottle. So this one is 60ml, this one is 237ml, so you can buy a bigger bottle and you can use that to fill up your spray bottle. And what you do, it smells really lovely, and you just spray the side that's supposed to be wet, and then when you've got a mucky stamp, and obviously I'm not going to have a stamp to hand, let me just grab a stamp and grab a block. These are not stamps that we're using today. These were stamps that we're using for some projects that I'm getting ready for some classes in March. So with your stamp on your block, you're just going to rub on the wet side and rub on the dry side, and then your stamp is all clean, beautifully ready to go next time. Now the stamping mist not only cleans your stamp, it does also condition them as well, so it's well worth getting your hands on some of that. So that is the stamping scrub. So let me move that to one side and just pop that stamp back down where I found it from so I can find it. So that's one cleaning tool that we've got. So the stamping scrub, really useful. I'll just tuck that under there, but we may well dig it out again in a minute. The other one, mine looks really grubby, but actually it doesn't matter that it looks grubby. It still is works beautifully, and this is the Simply Chamois, and this is one that you just wet, so you run it under the tap. I tend to actually fill this little tray with water and lay it in, squeeze it out and wring it out so it's just damp, and then that's there then that you can clean the stamps on it. It's really good if you're using your Stamparatus because you can pick it up and clean the stamps with it. Quite a few people have them and sort of cut them into quarters or something, so they've got either smaller bits because they don't like the fact that they get dirty, or smaller bits so that they've got smaller bits to clean up their Stamparatus. So you could cut it in half, you could cut it into quarters, you can certainly do that. When they come sealed in a bag and are already moist, but when they're left out in the air they will dry, but that's okay. So say you just put it in water and squeeze it out, and you'll find that you can run it into the tap and squeeze it out and some colour will come out of it, but not all the colour will come out of it. But that does not affect the way it works, it only affects the way it looks. And they are tools, not jewels. Been saying that quite a lot this last week. Tools, not jewels. So it doesn't matter that they don't look pretty as long as they work properly. So that is the Simply Chamois. The other thing that we do stock, and I haven't, my one actually is so old that it isn't a Stampin' Up one, but it's exactly the same stuff, and that is Stays On Cleaner. So we do also stock Stays On Cleaner, so if you want to clean Stays On off of your stamps, we stock that as well. You don't ever want to use your Stays On Cleaner on your photopolymer stamps because it can damage them, so only ever use your Stays On Cleaner on your rubber stamps. Stays On does often stain your stamps, but it doesn't affect the way they work. It only, like the Simply Chamois, it only affects the way they look. So, you know, you don't need to worry about that. One of the other things I've got on my desk is, I did say last week that my Snail adhesive had run out. So I have got some more arriving my order yesterday. So just a reminder that your Snail adhesive, you buy a whole Snail adhesive to start with, and then you just buy the refills. So here is my Snail adhesive with the old refill taken out, and I'm just going to pop that together like that, and we're ready to go. And they've got this little cover here that covers up the sticky bit so that doesn't get all fluffy when it's in storage. And there they are, ready to go, your tape runners. So really useful, particularly good if you're doing quick and easy cards. And we'll put that packaging in the recycling. So that's that one. And the other thing that I've got noted on here is trimmer. Somebody asked me about the trimmers. That was actually what they wanted to get their hands on. And I think what I will need to do at some point is we'll have to have a looking after your trimmer session, because that's looking as if that's got quite a lot of fluff in there. So let's just get rid of some of that. So, but the thing I wanted to say was, I did say to this lady, if you're ordering a trimmer, it's worth popping in some blades as well, because you don't want to get to the point that you need a new blade and you haven't got one. So the trimmers do lock, so that stops this from then flipping once it's locked. So I can turn that over, and in the back here there is this little compartment just here that you can keep your spare blades in, so that they're there ready for you when you need them, even if you are out and about. And that looks like it wants a bit of a clean as well. Obviously we need to do some spring cleaning in the craft room. They get just little bits of glue and things on them where they get sticky and then they get mucky. So I'm going to move that to one side. So we've looked at trimmers and the fact that it's always worth having a spare couple of blades tucked away in the bottom of your trimmer. We've talked about snails and about changing your snail adhesive. You actually get more adhesive on your refills than you get in your original snail. So your snail has, and let's look that up. Let's see what the actual meterage is on those. So with your oh no, I tell a fib. The snail ones are actually the same. It was when we used to do the when we did the fast fuse, that the fast fuse refill had more on it than the snail. No, the snail and the refill both have 12 meters, so you get 12 meters of adhesive on those refills. So that's that ready to go. So we'll put that in my pot so I can find that in a little bit. And let's dig out our product of the week. Oh, stretching because it's down on the floor in my basket. And the project of the week was this Just Because stamp set. And again, it was a host set. But again, hopefully some of the things that we're going to be doing this afternoon when we're crafting, you'll be able to do with other sets. But it is beautiful. And as you can see, it looks quite tiny. It's actually out of the spring summer catalogue and it looks quite tiny. But in actual fact, a couple of these stamps are missing because I've got them in the baskets ready to use. The stamps themselves are actually a really good size. They're really quite large. But yes, so that's the Just Because stamp set. It is a host set, so it is one that you need to earn some stamping rewards before you can treat yourself to that one. And you can earn stamping rewards in two ways. You could either host an event, and an event needs to generate £150 in sales, or you can put in an order for £150, and then you will be entitled to some stamping rewards for doing that. So those are the two ways that you can earn stamping rewards. And with this particular stamp set, it will cost you £12 in stamping rewards. Its retail value, if it was in the main catalogue, would be £20, but as it is a host set, you can get it for £12. So it is a really lovely stamp set. Which one shall we start with? I think we're going to start with this one. Now, with both of these cards, I've given thought to what I'm going to do, obviously, but I've not actually created a whole card. So let me just move this basket out of the way. But hopefully it will all come together nicely. Now I'm just going to bring out my spring summer catalogue and flick that page over, and I shall come to that in a moment. So the first card that we're going to do, we're going to start with a very vanilla card base, and we're going to use this stamp set here that says Thinking of You. Now I haven't yet put the cling backing on this one. It's always a useful reminder. I've done one, but I've not done this one yet. It's always a useful reminder of how you put these stamps together. And if you look at this sheet here, so you get your sheet with your cling backings on, you'll see that on one side you've got a split up the middle, and this is the side that is going to stick to the back of your stamp. So I'm going to peel off that backing on there to reveal my very sticky Thinking of You, backwards Thinking of You. I'm also going to take the backing off of the back of this stamp to reveal the cling mounty section on it. And then I'm going to line this up. Now, apologies if my head gets in the way. So I'm going to line that up, lay it on top of that sticky like that. And then when we peel that away, we have our stamp with our sticky cling label on the back, and you can see that is very sticky. They are very, very sticky when you first have them, and sometimes find that you need just to ease them off. So a couple of ways of doing that is, if they've really stuck to your block, is to use like this spatula end on the pickup tool and just ease that underneath the stamp to ease it up. The other thing that some people are doing is just using something like a little piece of washi tape. In fact, perhaps we'll do that. Let me find the block that we need. And I would think that it would be this block, which is an E block. So before we stick that stamp on there, I'm just going to put down a piece of washi tape and stick that on. So when it comes to lifting it up, you'll just be able to release it with that piece of washi tape. So let's put that on there. Okay, so that's our stamp on our block, all ready to go. Okay, I've also got some Mossy Meadow ink, all ready to go. So we've got a very vanilla card base, so C6 size, so that's half a piece of A4 scored in half. That's all ready to go. And then I've got some pieces of card that I've already die cut, and I've used in both the cards today. I've been using these layered stitched rectangles that are just fabulous. So I've been using those to create these frames. So I've put together two of the rectangles. It's that one and that one, I think, to make that frame. So I've put both of those together, run them through with that Fresh Fig card and created this frame. And the really nice thing is, because they are double stitched, you've got double stitching on the frame, you've got stitching on the piece of card that's come out of the middle, and you've also got stitching going around the edge of the piece of card that it's come from. So, you know, obviously you can then use all of those sections for different things if you want to. You can pile them up and have all sorts of stitching going on all over the place. So well and truly stitched. But the piece we're going to need is just that piece. And I've also got a piece of very vanilla card that, again, I've used those double stitched rectangles to cut out that, and that will sit just inside there beautifully. So let's move this to one side for now, because we are now going to have a look at these papers. Now, these papers are from the Wonderful Romance Suite. Now, this Wonderful Romance Suite, I haven't got quite a lot of the bits from here. I would really like to get them. They are on my wish list. They just haven't got as far as my shopping basket yet. But I have got some of these papers, and the papers are gorgeous. They are a Speciality Designer Series paper. You get 12 sheets, 3 each of 2 single-sided designs in vellum, and 6 printed sheets, 3 each of 2 double-sided. So the double-sided ones are here, look. So you've got this petal pink spot and this beautiful leaf print. So those are paper, double-sided paper. This is the other one with this green foliage on, and the other side is this wood effect paper. So those are those. You get 3 each of those. And then you get these 2 vellums. Now, the vellums are obviously only single-sided. That's right, I'm watching because my laptop seems to be going funny. I think it is just that I've rested something on it, and it's let's come back up to the top, make sure we're still there. Yes, absolutely. As you can see, these vellums are beautiful. They are a patterned vellum. So this one is a petal pink vellum, and this one is all this foliage and flowers and things, and it is absolutely stunning. And this is the one that we're going to be using today. Well, we're going to use this one, so we're going to use this vellum. Obviously, these are just cut down into 6x6 pieces. You get more than a 6x6 piece, you actually get 12x12 pieces. We're going to use this one, and this one in this project. I'm going to put this very pretty petal pink vellum to one side, and that 12x12 pack of paper is £13 for those 12 sheets. And I said it is absolutely stunning, beautiful. And obviously these patterns on here do reflect the patterns in the stamp set and the dies and things, but this is just to prove that you can use them without the stamps and dies, because as I've said, those are still on my wish list. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this piece of vellum down to sit on top as a mat on top of that piece of cardstock. So I need to cut it so it is 10 centimeters wide. Put that piece carefully away because we don't want to lose it, and 14.4 centimeters long. And I'm going to keep that little bit as well. Who knows when that little bit of vellum might be useful. Far too pretty just to put that in the recycling. So there we have a piece of that vellum just cut, just that there's a bit of a border of the card all the way around. Now vellum is obviously notoriously difficult to stick, but we will come back to that in a minute, because then we've got our frame that's going to sit on there, and we also have our piece of very vanilla cardstock and our stamp. And I'm going to ink this up in Mossy Meadow. Tap, 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 tap. Tapping a baby's bottom, not squashing a fly. And then stamp that. I ought to do it so that it's a bit straight. So push, push, push. Helen is wonderful, Helen is wonderful, Helen is wonderful. And there we have a beautiful image. Now, we're not going to leave that there. We're actually going to do some paper piecing. So I'm going to hang on to that ink because I'm going to want that again in a minute. Now, let me have a look. What sort of width would we need for that flower pot? About an inch strip, I think. I'm going to go just slightly over so it gives me a bit of leeway. I'm going to ink my stamp up again. I think I've got a bird tap dancing on the conservatory roof. And I'm going to stamp this so that that plant pot is resting on the pink piece of paper. Brilliant. Just clear that ink up so that it doesn't transfer, and then I'm going to ink it up again. I'm going to ink this, stamp this, so that the leaf section is sitting on there. Right, now we're going to, I should have started some of this beforehand. So I'm now going to fussy cut these out. So this is what's known as paper piecing. Obviously you're cutting out lots of pieces of paper and sticking them in place on your image. Often can do this with sort of, if you've got dresses and those sorts of things. But I was thinking this would give it quite a nice sort of patchworky effect. Now, these are not going to be the easiest to see on here. But let's cut around these leaves. Not going to worry too much about the stalks and things, because it's just enough that we've got the leaves. May have been better actually stamping this in black, so it showed up a little bit better. But never mind. So you're getting the general idea. We're just building up these leaves. So there's lots of stamp sets you can paper piece with. I didn't cut that one a bit thin. We'll just fill in with some, I'll find a Mossy Meadow pen to fill that in. That's more haste, less speed. We're working our way round. The other thing you could do with this is heat emboss it. That would give you the raised edge to see as you were cutting them out. Oh, I just dropped a bit. Yes, I just dropped the rest of my plant. I wondered where it'd gone. Lost my orientation now. That's it, it's that one. And last but not least, is this leaf here. Right, so those aren't stuck on, so they're all a bit wiggly at the minute. So the idea is we're going to stick on our vellum, our plant pot and our leaves just there. So I am going to just grab the Mossy Meadow Stamping White marker. Let's see how quick we can find it. Just there. And before sticking these leaves on, I'm just going to go round the edge with the green, so that if there is anywhere that is just a little bit thinner than the edge underneath. Oh, that's a big blob. Let's take up some of that glue. Don't want quite that much on it, I don't think. There we go. Again, we'll come just round the edge here, just in case any of that is sticking out, and this has got this little leaf up here attached as well. Now that glue has splodged well and truly there. It's a fairly new glue, and of course I've had it sitting upside down, which is the way that I tend to store them. So it was very eager to come out. This doesn't have to be particularly neat, or as it is only a bit of a belt and braces affair. Just to prevent any creamy edges around the edge. That's that one. Nearly there, working our way round. Penultimate leaf. I love that word. It's funny how some words really sort of strike a chord more than others. So there is our penultimate leaf. So the fact that you've got that pattern on that paper, oh, I've forgotten to do my edging. The pattern, you've got that pattern, does give the plant a sort of variegated look to it. Like that. Let's just put our plant pot on. Beautiful. Oh, wrong lid. Okay, now our vellum. I really don't want this squeezing out too much. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my frame and my picture in place first, because then that gives me an indication of where I can put glue underneath that without there being any danger of it showing through. Now, do we stick this flat, or are we going to have this slightly raised? I think we'll slightly raise the plant pot. So let's put some dimensionals. These dimensionals are actually left over from the Incredible Like You kit that we were making up as part of our Saturday stampers on Saturday. So they always make sure you get more than enough things like foam pads, that you always have some left over. So that's what I'm using up. So exactly the same foam pads as we always have, just look slightly different because the sheet that they're on is slightly different. Right, so let's line that up in the centre of our frame like that. Okay, so now we know that we are going to be able to stick glue underneath here without any danger of it showing through. And then I'm just going to put some little spots, so where there is some flowers and those sorts of things that will will hide anything that would want to peep through. Now there is still a bit of squidgy glue left on there, so what I will do is once it has completely dried, I'll get out my glue eraser and get rid of that. That vellum's a little bit wonky on there. Let's slide that round a little bit. There we go. Beautiful. Then when I looked in my ribbon box, I did just have a tiny little bit of this fresh fig ribbon left, so let's tie ourselves a bow with that. Oh, Carol, hello from Vietnam. How exciting. I hope that Mr. Trump isn't giving you too much trouble out there. I saw yesterday that you'd had to delay your rickshaw ride because he was in town. I don't think I'd want to be on a rickshaw with Mr. Trump anyway. Right, let's just trim that bow down, and we will add in a glue dot in the bottom there. So there we are. So that is our little plant pot from the Just Because that says thinking of you, with some of this gorgeous vellum paper and doing some paper piecing. So that's very pretty and floral and feminine, and yeah, really pretty card. The other one, I thought we'd do something really quite different. So let's pop away my glue and my glue dots and those sorts of things for now, and pop this card to one side out of harm's way. Gather up any bits, because for the other card, I thought we would use this stamp set here. This thing, I am what I am because of you. So that would be very good for Mother's Day, or for somebody that's been a really good mentor at work, or any of those sorts of things, a teacher. Yeah, so a really nice sentiment. Obviously with these, you could always mask off the sentiments. You don't need to use those sentiments, or you could physically chop them off the stamp and have them as separate sentiments that you ink up separately, and just have your stamps. You could cut round your stamp a little bit, top and bottom, and have them so that you could put them together if you want to, but use them separately if you want to. So that is always an option. You can do that to your stamps. They are your stamps, and as we said earlier, they are tools and not jewels. So if you want to do something like that with them, if that makes life easier for you, then absolutely you can. So we're going to use it as it is for today, though. I am what I am because of you. Let's just clean up. Let's use our Simply Chamois to clean up this stamp. There we go. Pop that down out the way for a minute. Pop that stamp out the way for a minute. And the Mossy Meadow ink, we don't need any of that. We've got some black embossing powder. We've got some Brusho. We've got a Versamark. And I've got various threads and things. Hadn't quite decided what I wanted to use there. Let's get these bits out. Let's get this out. Let's get this out. We'll come back to those bits a bit later when we get to the point that we're deciding what we want. Right, so what I've got here is a piece of watercolour card, and again I've cut it with these stitched rectangles, and I've also used the same stitched rectangles to make this black frame and also a stitched black mat. So eventually our piece of artwork is going to go onto a black mat, and we've got a bit of a frame to go with it as well. So we'll hang on to the card, but we'll put our frames to one side for a minute. I've also got my Stamparatus. So we've got all these dies. There's loads of rectangles in here. It's a really, really good set. I've used that quite a lot since I've had it. But here we have our Stamparatus, and we also have a piece of thick Whisper White card. So let's start off by making our card base. So in order to make a card base, I tend to do 2 bases at once. I'm going to line that up at 10.5 centimetres on the top here, and using my pale grey score blade rather than the cutting blade, I am going to score that down the middle. So I've got a central score line going all the way down the length of that card. Swing it round 14.9 centimetres and use my dark grey cutting blade, cut that, and I now have 2 C6 card blanks. So for now we're only going to need 1. I'll pop the other one down there for now. So there we have our card blank ready to go. Let's pop that at the back there, and let's go back to our Stamparatus. So Stamparatus, it comes with your main base piece, 2 magnets, 2 plates that slot in the sides here. Oh, apologies, I didn't turn my ding-a-ling off. And you get the foam mat that goes in it if you're using photopolymer stamps. But the stamps that we are using today are rubber stamps. So the first thing we're going to get rid of, to put to one side, is that foam mat. And we also only need 1 of our plates. So let's take our other plate off and put that to one side. I have got some grid paper in the bottom here. Now the grid paper is additional. You have got a grid on the bottom of your plate anyway, but I've put a piece of grid paper in because on that piece of grid paper, look, I have a mark, which is the point at which I am going to rest that little piece, that little stitch rectangle of watercolour card. I'm going to leave that just there for a minute. I'm not going to put any magnets on just yet, because the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my stamp on there and make sure I'm happy with its positioning. Yep, that looks fairly good. And then I'm going to sneak a magnet on there. I'm going to take a embossing buddy, and I'm going to wipe my piece of card with my embossing buddy. Ensure that that's all back where we want it. Stamps in place. Let's pick that stamp up, and because it's beautifully clingy, that picks up beautifully on our plate just here. So we are all ready to go. We have our card in place and we have our stamp in place. Now the reason that I've decided to use my Stamparatus to stamp this particular one is that watercolour card has got a real texture to it. So I just felt it'd be a really good thing to stamp it twice, and obviously by using the Stamparatus we can do that. We can ink it up. Let me just swing this round. I should have perhaps kept the other plate on. Let me swing this round. I'm going to tap, 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 ink up that stamp beautifully. Bring it down. Press, press, press all over. Now, because Versamark is notoriously difficult to see whether that has, you know, done a good coverage or not, that's and because it is a very highly textured card, I just thought it would be worth re-inking and giving it a second stamp just to make sure. So let's move that magnet out the way, pick this up. Come back in and clean that in a minute. Let me pop your magnets. You've got these little indents on the bottom that you can tuck your magnets in when they're not in use. And here we have some black embossing powder, and hopefully when we sprinkle our black embossing powder on, we are going to see our image appear. Now there's just a little bit of powder clinging around the outside there. So I'm just looking, I had a really lovely fine little paintbrush earlier. Where's that gone? Let's just brush that excess powder off from around that edge. And bring in our heat tool. Excuse the noise. Let me get that nice and hot. And we'll heat that. The black heated embossing powder, it isn't quite so easy to see it turn as some of the others. So there is a real danger that you can overheat it if you're not careful. And if you overheat embossing powders, it does go flat and doesn't have a sort of raised image to it. I think that feels as if that is done. Give it a bit of more of a blast in the centre there. Right, now what I thought we'd do to colour this is that we'd get out our brushos. I've not used my brushos for ages. In fact, I couldn't even see them on my shelf. They were tucked on the bottom of the shelf. So brusho, if you've not come across brusho before, is actually something that as crafters have borrowed from the art world. And they are highly pigmented paper powders that you can add water to. Hello, Wendy. That you can add water to and use as paints, or there's lots of different techniques that you can do with brushos. But for now, what we're going to do is we're just going to, they come in these little pots. Now you can lift the lid off, but what I've done is I've created a little hole in the top of the pot and I keep a push pin in, and I've used my Stampin' Right markers to colour the pins if they weren't already coloured, so that they match the colour that's in the tub. Now brushos are actually, they're not a Stampin' Up product, but we do have them in the Stampin' Up catalogue, and these are the 5 colours that we have. We have the yellow, the brilliant red, the gamboge, the Prussian blue and the moss green. You'll see on the top, so this is actually brusho that I've sprinkled on the top and used and cut out to create these stickers. You do get particularly with the moss green, a breaking down of the colours, so of the colours that make up the pigment. If I was to put the green in a pot, mix it with water, you'd have moss green. If you just sprinkle it and spritz it with water, you get sort of like these different colours that come out, and that's actually what we're going to do with this in a minute. You get this sort of breakout of the different colours. So you do get some green, but you also get some blue and some yellow and all sorts of colours going on in the brushos. So we're going to use 2 colours. We're going to use the green and we're also going to use the yellow. So as I say, there's lots of techniques you can do. You can lay water down on your card or spritz water on your card and brush and tap the brusho into the water, and it sort of, as the powder hits the water, it reacts with it, and it's great fun. You can sprinkle the powder on, spritz it with water and see what happens. You can add water to the powder and mix it up into a paint. You can sort of drop a bit of brusho into water that a puddle of water that you've laid down on your card. Just lots of things. You can use it with embossing folders, you can stamp with it. There's all sorts of things, techniques and things that you can use with brusho. You can use the brusho to colour other things, so embossing pastes and all those sorts of things, because it is a pigment. That's what it is. It is a pigment powder. It is pure pigment. But what we're going to do is we have on hand our stamping spritz. that I have filled with water, so that is good to go. And we have our moss green and our yellow brushos. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to literally tap, tap, tap some of this powder sort of over the top area where the foliage is, and you probably can hardly see anything on there. And I'm going to do the same on the bottom with the yellow. Let's just tap, tap, tap some of the yellow powder on the bottom. And this is where the little hole in the top sort of acts like a bit like a salt pot. So you may or may not be able to pick up the little speckles of colour that are sitting on the top of that. Now these are one of these techniques that I'm sure that if you're a great artist you can be very precise with, possibly, but precision isn't necessarily the name of the game. What we're going to do now is we're going to spritz that with water, and you will see those colours burst to life, and we're just going to let it do its thing. I've got a bit of kitchen towel here, and actually what I did before when I did some is I had this actually sitting on some kitchen towel. That's not a bad idea. This brusho does move, so you will find that you may well have, you know, little speckles of it left behind, and if any water gets onto it then it activates, so it is worth having something underneath it. So what I'm going to do, can you see all these different colours that are coming out? The blues and the orange, and there's red down there, all sorts of different colours that are coming out. Now where these puddles are forming, I'm just going to take some of that excess ink away. It's not all, it sometimes is a good idea. What you can do is tape this down to stop it from curling up. But actually now I've pressed that down, it's a little flatter. So like where this really bright orangey piece is just here, do I want that to stay that orange, or do I just want to take up some of that? Take up a little bit of that. Now you can take your heat gun and you can dry this. Obviously if you want a bit more colour, you can tap a bit more colour in. See where that sort of sucks the water up around the edge there? I might put a bit more green on the top there. And where it hits the water, it will react with it. As I said, you can take your heat gun and you can dry these. But I'm actually going to leave that to one side to do its own thing and to dry by itself, because I have got here's one I made earlier for this that I have let dry, and this was one I made I don't know, about 10 to 1 sort of earlier on today, I think. So as you can see, it has curled up a bit, but exactly the same thing. It was the same colours, the green on the top, yellow on the bottom. Spritzed it with water and it did its own thing. So this is the one I'm going to use now. This one is dry, to create our card. So let's grab some Tombow, put that on the back. Now when I finish this video, I will edit it and put some links. I'll also put links to some of these products, so things like Brusho if you're interested. Also the I'm pressing that down so that I'm not getting my fingers all over it necessarily. I'm using a third party. Another thing that's quite good for doing that with is actually the stamp blocks. Where's our big stamp block gone? Just here. Let's use that. Still got that the stamp on, but that's fine. And I'm just going to press that down to make sure that's all had good contact with our card. Now I've got here the Petal Burst embossing folder, and I've run some old olive card through that, as I thought that would be a good colour to pick up those greens and things in there. So let's stick that down. And again, I'm going to, because that watercolour card got a bit curly, it is wanting to curl. So let's press that down nice and firmly. And then I've got this frame section here that I'm going to stick on. You can tell by looking which is the right side and wrong side from where these have been run through the die machine. And actually what's quite nice about this sort of style of card and colourway is it actually is it could very easily be used as a masculine card as well as a feminine card. So it could very easily be Father's Day as well as Mother's Day, or a male teacher, or whatever. So the other thing that I did gather up was different twines and things. They're in the bottom of this basket. Now I've got 3 different ones here, so it's about choosing which we want. So I've got some basic black baker's twine there. I've got some old olive linen thread, and I've got some normal linen thread. I'm quite tempted to use all of those. That's very decadent of us, isn't it? Now, let me just, excuse me, scrabbling around. I know that my my tear and tape went walkabouts yesterday, so there we are. We have some tear and tape. Let's find our scissors. So what we'll do is we'll get those so that those 3 ends are together. Work out how much we want. About that, I think. And we'll put that across the bottom. Bring it round the back and then put that in place with some tear and tape. Well and truly stuck to my finger, and then we'll take all 3 again. I think we'll just tie those in a knot. Let's trim those. So again, by making it a knot and not a bow, that means that it's still very easy to use that as a masculine card. Let's have some more of these dimensional. So we haven't got anything raised up on the card itself, but we'll raise up this entire mat. So 2 very different cards. One very soft and feminine and pretty colours and flowers and vellum, sugar and spice and all things nice. And the other one far more a bit more a grungy feel to it. And one that could be used very easily for a masculine card as well as a female card. So let's bring the other one in. So there we are. same stamp set, 2 very different cards. Let's bring the stamp set in there, bring those in there, because then hopefully that will be one of my options then when it comes later to picking a picture for the still for the video. So there we are, just because. A bit of paper piecing, a bit of brush show, so yeah, really messy, really quite nice and clean, quite feminine, quite masculine and grungy. So whatever your style, then there's something for you with this Just Because stamp set. And as I said before, if you haven't got the Just Because stamp set, then you know, certainly have a go at some paper piecing with other stamp sets, have a go at some brush show, they're great fun. But yes, so thank you for being with me on this Thursday afternoon. I'm off now to do some jobs, a bit more work, tick a few more to do things off my to-do list, perhaps have a bit of lunch as well, and I will be back on Monday when we'll be into a whole new month and a whole new focus. So see you then.